Proposition 4 is a bond measure for parks, environment, energy, wildfire prevention, and also for water system infrastructure. How did it wind up on the ballot? It was approved by 2/3 of each of the chambers, right? So what you can see is it says the California House of Representatives, but really it's the California State Assembly. But if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see that 61 Democrats voted in favor of it, 1 voted against, with 1 not voting. Republicans were more split, 6 in favor, 5 against, and 6 not voting. And then over in the state Senate on the left-hand side, 32 Democrats voted in favor of it. No Democrats voted against it, and everybody voted. But there was a more partisan split in the Senate with only 1 Republican voting in favor of it, 5 voting against, and 2 not voting. But since it got the requisite 2/3 vote, then it was referred to us as all bond measures have to be. What are the policy changes if Proposition 4 passes? Well, if Proposition 4 passes, it'll authorize the state of California to issue $10 billion in bonds to fund a wide range of environmental, wildfire prevention, water, and energy projects. The primary policy changes include the following. First, there would be $3.8 billion allocated to improve water availability, to repair dams, and manage stormwater to provide more resilient water systems, especially during droughts and floods. The funds would also support projects to reduce contaminants in groundwater, expand water infrastructure, and improve drinking water, especially in underserved communities. In terms of wildfire prevention, $1.5 billion would be spent for wildfire prevention. The money would focus on thinning the forests, reducing overgrown vegetation, and supporting homeowners in making their properties more fire resistant. The goal of these investments is to mitigate the risk of catastrophic wildfires. There would also be $1.2 billion used to restore wetlands and protect coastal communities from sea level rise, as well as enhancing other marine ecosystems to buffer against the impact of climate change. There would be $700 million would be used to improve recreational spaces and add infrastructure like trails and green areas to state parks. There would also be $850 million invested in offshore wind turbines and energy transmission lines to boost the state's renewable energy capacity. The proposition also provides funds to enhance energy storage with large-scale batteries. Now, 40% of the funds are required to be directly benefit lower-income communities and those most vulnerable to climate risks. This includes targeted investment in flood protection, water access, and park improvements in underserved communities. The proposition also mandates annual audits and public reporting by the Natural Resources Agency to ensure that funds are spent properly and efficiently. What are the fiscal impacts if Proposition 4 passes? Well, the total bond amount is $10 billion. Obviously, those things have to be paid with interest, so this would wind up being, it's paid over 40 years' time, so it would be about $400 million annually, and it would be paid from the general fund. The estimated annual cost is less than 0.5% of the state's general fund. In terms of local government savings, Proposition 4 is likely to reduce local government costs for natural resources and climate-related activities, since the state would be investing money in those areas. While these savings in terms of disaster prevention are uncertain, there could be significant savings if the projects reduce the damage from potential climate-related disasters. What are the arguments in favor of Proposition 4? Proponents argue that these funds are essential to tackle California's pressing environmental challenges such as drought, wildfires, and sea level rise. Proposition 4 ensures that at least 40% of the funds are directed to low-income, climate-vulnerable communities, helping reduce disparities in water access disaster protection, and park development. Also, they argue that investments in wildfire prevention, water infrastructure, and renewable energy will generate economic benefits such as job creation, while also providing long-term savings and preventing potential costly disasters. Restoring forests, wetlands, and rivers will contribute both to environmental sustainability and public health. The arguments against Proposition 4 are as follows. Issuing $10 billion in bonds will add to California's long-term debt, which will cost taxpayers $16 billion over the 40 years where it has to be paid off, including the interest. With California facing a significant budget deficit already, the state should not take on more debt when it's already struggling to balance its budget. And then finally, the measure is too broad. Right, that it's unfocused, covering a wide range of projects that may not be equally critical. The bond measure should have been more targeted, ensuring that funds are spent on the most urgent priorities rather than spreading resources thinly across multiple categories. In terms of the recommendations, the California Republican Party recommends a no vote. The California Democratic Party recommends a yes vote. The California Chamber of Commerce is neutral. The Labor Federation recommends a yes vote. The Los Angeles Times recommends a yes vote. And the Daily News recommends a no vote. So what do votes on Proposition 4 mean? Yes, a yes vote supports issuing $10 billion in bonds to fund state, local parks, environmental protection projects, water infrastructure projects, energy projects, and flood protection projects. A no vote opposes issuing $10 billion for these purposes. I hope this was helpful.